wow, it tastes just like a Hi-Chew candy. We all know that candy can be a major temptation for some on this lifestyle, especially around this time of year, the holidays. It seems like there's candy everywhere. More and more companies are starting to make keto candy, but it's actually really expensive, or they use a lot of sugar alcohols in their candy, which can cause digestive problems for some, even some diarrhea, if you eat too much of it. So I'm going to show you some easy keto candy recipes, plus I give you just the basics of keto candy making, like how to get a soft, like taffy type texture to more of like a medium caramel chew, and all the way up to hard keto candy. And with these basic principles, you can make whatever candy you want, from different flavors to different textures. All of these candies use the same base recipe, they just vary on their flavor and their cooking time. So let's start with our first keto candy, which is taffy. And today I'm going to show you how to make banana Laffy taffy, but you could actually use the same recipe to make any type of taffy, even saltwater taffy. For our keto candy base, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter to a small saucepan and melt it over medium heat. Then we're gonna lower that heat down to low or low medium, and then add a 1/4 cup of sugar-free vanilla syrup. And I'll have my favorite brand listed down below in the description box. It's the only brand I've tried for these recipes, so I know it works. You'll also need 5 teaspoons of a sugar-free sweetener. The one I'm using is allulose, but I know that a monk fruit blend sweetener works as well, along with 1 pinch of salt. Now, if you're gonna be making saltwater taffy, you'll need 2 pinches of salt just to give it more of that salty flavor. We're gonna let that cook, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow food coloring to this because I want it to be that iconic yellow color since we're making banana Laffy taffy. And then we're gonna let this cook until it starts to bubble. So it'll start to kind of boil a little bit. This is the stage that you would remove it if you were making like a caramel syrup or any sort of syrup that you wanted to go on type of ice cream or cheesecake. This is where you would stop. But we wanna make taffy, so we're gonna let it go a little bit longer. As it continues to cook, and you do want to continue to stir it throughout this whole process just so it doesn't burn or kind of stick to the bottom. I don't think it would, but just kind of stir it occasionally. We're going to let that cook under this medium-low heat until it starts to froth and foam. And once it gets to this stage, then that is like our soft taffy stage. So then we'll remove it from the heat. You basically want to cook it so if you scrape the bottom, you can actually see the bottom of the pan, and it takes a little bit of time for the rest of the candy to go over that spot that you've scraped over. At this point, I'm going to add in my banana flavoring, and I'll have some options listed down below for you for when it comes to banana extract. Stir that in, and then you want to work quickly. So if you're going to be using candy molds, you could use that. I'm just going to use a sheet of parchment paper and then pour it into strips onto my parchment paper. And then we're going to let it cool to harden. So I'm going to pop it in the refrigerator until it hardens. It should take maybe around half hour to cool and set. And then it just peels right off. This is delicious banana, rhymes with my name, banana Laffy taffy. Now, if you do let it sit out, it starts to get a little moldable. It's still taffy form, but look at, this is just like how it is in the package, the real stuff. And if you pull it, it just is this beautiful taffy pull, and it's so good. Next, we're gonna make chewy caramels. And again, it's pretty much gonna be the same base recipe, just a little bit different flavor. And we're gonna let it cook just a tad bit longer. Again, we're gonna start with 2 tablespoons of butter in our saucepan, and we're gonna melt that over medium heat. Now, when it comes to making caramels, I actually like to let my butter melt a little bit longer so it gets that sort of brown butter flavor and appearance. So once you start to see like these little specks of brown forming in the bottom of your saucepan, or you get that nutty aroma, that's brown butter, and it is delicious, especially in caramels. At that point, I'm gonna lower the heat to low or low medium, and this time I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of sugar-free caramel syrup, and I'll have my favorite listed down below in the description box for you, along with 5 teaspoons of sweetener. Again, I'm using allulose, and then a pinch of salt. And then to give it kind of that creamy flavor, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. Stir that until it starts to get that soft boil or bubbles up. And then again, let it continue to cook until you start to see it be frothy and foamy. And once we get to this stage, I'm just gonna keep kind of cooking it and swirling it. Let it go for maybe around another 30 seconds or a minute, then remove from the heat, and then I'm gonna pour these into candy molds. Now you have your options when it comes to candy molds, and Amazon is filled with tons of different shapes and sizes. You can get basic ones like this that are candy molds. I actually picked up these little guys. They're squares. I feel like a rectangle would have been probably a little bit more appropriate, but this is what I have. And they're just silicone molds. It's so easy. They pour in super simply, and then once they're hard, they just easily pop out. So again, work fast. Pour these into your molds. I just pour it on in. If it overfills, I spread it into the next cell and then place it in the refrigerator to cool. And these things are so perfect. They just remind me of like a candy that like my grandpa would eat. I mean, I like them too. Is that a sign that I'm getting old? I don't know. They're so good. Next, we're gonna be making some watermelon Hi-Chews. I don't know if you've heard of the Hi-Chew candies. They were meant to sort of be like a gum where you could chew it for a long time, but you end up swallowing it. So again, we're using the same base recipe. We're just gonna switch up the flavor. This is gonna be a watermelon flavor, and we're gonna let these cook a little bit longer. In the saucepan, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of butter and let that melt down. Then again, reduce the heat to low or low medium, and then add in 1/4 cup of the sugar-free vanilla syrup, 5 teaspoons of sweetener. And then for flavoring, and instead of adding salt, I'm gonna add a different type of ingredient. We're gonna be adding in electrolytes from LMNT. I always keep these electrolytes around the house as a way to just kind of recharge and refuel because they're high in sodium, magnesium, and potassium. And LMNT has sponsored today's video. They have a wide range of flavors from watermelon, raspberry, orange, they even have chocolate. I thought it would be fun to use their product in today's candy recipe because I wanted to make a watermelon flavored thing, and they just happen to make watermelon electrolytes. So this is one way we can flavor our candy, plus it gives it that sodium in there that's really necessary for candy because it helps bring out that sweetness. So I'm gonna add 1/2 pack of LMNT electrolytes and then a little bit of food coloring. We're gonna mix that and let it cook until it starts to get to that bubbly, like first boil stage. If you're interested in trying LMNT, I'll have a link down below that you can click on. You'll get to try 8 of their flavors, all for free. All you have to do is just pay shipping. This is a US-based offer, and it's a one-time offer too. Now that we're at that foamy, frothy stage, since I do want these to be more chewier than that caramel, I'm gonna let these cook for an additional minute to minute and a half. You want it to look like this, where it just kind of like rips off of your spoon. And then once again, I'm gonna be using a candy mold to put these in. And then in the refrigerator, these go to harden. The last type of candy that you can make is a hard candy, and I've actually already made hard candy. It's on a different channel. It's not my channel. It's the Chalk Zero channel. You guys can just click up here to watch it. It's where I show you how to make peach Jolly Ranchers, but we use the same base recipe to make them. Basically, you would just add your flavoring. I use a peach sugar-free syrup and then let it cook past the frothy foamy stage until you get these like big clear bubbles start to form. It takes a while. It can take like 5 to 10 minutes or so to get to that point, but that produces a super hard candy. And you really have to work fast when you fill these into your candy molds because it hardens quite quickly too. These candies all turned out fabulous, and it really doesn't take that long to make them. I'm excited to experiment and just try a bunch of different flavors and textures of candy to make my friends and family for the holiday season, especially the saltwater taffy. I feel like that one would be my favorite. I miss saltwater taffy. If you guys are looking for some more unique keto recipes, well then just click on this playlist right here. I show you how to turn your favorite comfort foods into keto versions without hardly any effort.